Nothing starts off a WWE pay-per-view like an epic intro, tons of pyro, and most importantly an A+ opening match. And today we'll be taking a look at and ranking every single opening match in SummerSlam since the year 2000. By the way, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay till the very end, as I will be revealing what the greatest opening SummerSlam match is of all time. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so some of these beginning ones were a bit tricky to see because of the way this tier list has been made, but I believe it's SummerSlam 2000, a 6-man tag match between Too Cool and Right to Censor. So we have a 6-man tag team match. Now we're talking the year 2000. I'm not as familiar with the teams that competed in this 6-man tag team match, but just to rattle off some names, we have The Godfather, Steven Richards, and Bull Buchanan versus Too Cool, which is Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Grandmaster Sexay. I hope I said that right. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good match. I feel like I'm going to be a bit unfair on the 2000 and 2001 because those years are like a tiny bit out of my ballpark. But with that being said, I'm sorry to you 90s babies if I've upset you there, but we're going to put that in the B tier to start off with. Also, why the hell do we have two B tiers? Let me sort that out real quick. All right, that is better. All right, on to 2001, we have Lance Storm defending the WWF Intercontinental Championship against Edge. I don't really know who Lance Storm is, and I'm going to get grilled in the comments by this. Not really a name I've heard much of, if anything of. I have to put these two in the B tier because I really do not have much comments to say on these two. However, moving forward, we are very much locked in here, and we have Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle, I believe, in 2002. That is an S tier match if I've ever seen one. We're talking Kurt Angle, we're talking Rey Mysterio. Come on now, you cannot get better than that. All right, on to 2003, we have the Dudley Boys versus La Resistance, who were the champions, the tag team champions at that time. Again, not really a tag team I'm very familiar with. I like the Dudley Boys. I'm going to put this in a B tier. It just does not sound like a marquee match to me. By the way, let me just clarify. I am purely going off the match card itself, the actual competitors in the match, not the actual quality of the match, because yeah, I do not have recollection of every single match since the year 2000. So yeah, we're just purely going off the match card, the superstars in it. Do they bring, you know, the star power? Do they bring the hype? Do they have a rivalry? Whatever. Now on to 2004, we have another tag team match. Now I feel like these have practically all been tag team matches at this point, except for the Rey Mysterio Kurt Angle match. We have the Dudleys, Bubba Ray Dudley, Devon Dudley, Spike Dudley, against the team of Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, and Paul London. Okay, I feel like that's an A tier match, honestly. I feel like we've got to appreciate, by the way, how much the Dudley Boys have been carrying these opening matches as of like the early 2000s. Like, I really did not know they were in every single opening match. Anyway, on to 2005, it is Orlando Jordan versus Thou Who Shall Not Be Named for the United States Championship. Now, obviously, I'm talking about Chris Benoit. Yeah, someone who's not really covered by the media. So as a, you know, mid 2000s baby, someone I've not really got a lot of experience in seeing. Obviously, I know a lot of his matches are on Netflix, are still on the network, but he's someone that's really just, you know, erased from history. So his entire reputation is essentially deleted by the WWE at this point. With that being said, to be honest, I think I did actually watch this match on the network. Yeah, it's fine, I guess. I'll put it in the B tier. I don't really care for Orlando Jordan. Yeah, not a crazy opening match, honestly. On to 2006, we have Chavo Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. Now, Chavo Guerrero has always been like this hyper mid-card superstar. Not really a marquee attraction, not really, you know, a SummerSlam attraction. Rey Mysterio, on the other hand, however, yeah, we don't need to talk about 2006 Rey Mysterio. 2006 Rey Mysterio, maybe one of the greatest of all times. And I'm not saying 2006 specifically, but that era of Rey Mysterio, unmatched. I'm going to put this match also in B tier, though. Not something I'm crazy excited about. Now, a very weird match. 2007, we have Kane versus Finlay. Again, Finlay, someone I don't really care about. You know, when Finlay comes out, does anyone really get excited? Maybe there are people, but that's just not me personally. Kane, however, Kane deserves so much more flowers than he gets. I feel like Kane is a top attraction in the WWE. I feel like he's way more of a draw than anyone will ever give him credit for, but it's Finlay at the end of the day. He's versatile, and I'm gonna have to put that in the B tier. Now, I apologize for making the longest B tier ever, but these are just a lot of mid matches, and it's kind of what you expect in an opening match. However, 2008 SummerSlam, we have Jeff Hardy versus MVP. Two guys who were just absolutely him in the year 2008. I mean, Jeff Hardy, come on now. And then MVP. And this was a point when MVP had that goated entrance as well, with like the inflatable, all the pyro. This is an A tier match for me. Not quite an S tier, you know, we're not really talking two main event stars at this point in time, but very much an A tier match for me. On to 2009, we have Dolph Ziggler versus Rey Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, this is more my cup of tea. Maybe it's my age speaking. Like, obviously, I'm a new gen. These rankings are gonna be reflective of my new gen opinions. But Dolph Ziggler, maybe one of my favorites of all time. That man can sell. That man can put on a match. You know, it's Dolph Ziggler. And then Rey Mysterio, of course. This match is an A tier match for me. I absolutely love the two guys for the Intercontinental title as well. I think once you add a title into the mix, hey, that's a hella good match. On to 2010, and basically the same match, except we swapped out Kofi Kingston for Rey Mysterio, or the other way around, I guess. Again, Dolph Ziggler, Intercontinental Championship against Kofi Kingston. Now, obviously at this time, we're talking very, very much mid-card Kofi Kingston. Not really established as a draw at this point, but obviously I love Kofi Kingston at this time. I think it's either a very, very high B tier match or a low A tier match. You know what? I know these two can put on a banger of a match, so I am going to put this in the low A tier. Now, on to 2011, we have a 6-man tag team match. Kofi Kingston, John Morrison, and Rey Mysterio against The Miz, R-Truth, and Alberto Del Rio. To me, that is a crazy stacked lineup in an opening match. We have some absolute main events at this time. Bear in mind, we're talking 2011. Alberto Del Rio was pretty much a world champion at these times. The Miz was a world champion at these times. Rey Mysterio was a world champion at these times. Kofi Kingston, obviously a consistent mid-card champion at this time. John Morrison, kind of semi-legend status at this point. I know he's certainly not a legend, but you know, John Morrison was a veteran on the roster at this point. And then of course, R-Truth. I'm gonna have to put this in the A tier purely for the fact that this is an opening match and we've got a 6-man tag team match between 6 men who are, I'd say at least 4 of them comfortably world champion material at that time. And not only world champion material, but most of them were world champions between 2010, 2011, 2012. So for that reason, comfortable A tier for me. 2012, Chris Jericho versus Dolph Ziggler. Now, I love the sound of this match. Again, recurring theme. I think Dolph Ziggler's been in basically every one of these since 2009, 2008. Yeah, Chris Jericho, absolute legend at this point. Dolph Ziggler, Vicky Guerrero in his corner. Again, we're talking prime Dolph Ziggler, as we can see, with the Money in the Bank briefcase just moments before his cash-in. Well, I say moments, a couple months, I imagine, before his cash-in. Obviously, we're talking the peak of Dolph Ziggler's career. We're not far. Well, Chris Jericho is someone who's had a couple peaks to his career. And for that reason, 2 of the top guys, in my opinion, give me high A tier. Even higher than that. Lovely. 2013, we were treated to an absolute banger of a stipulation match. We had Kane against Bray Wyatt in a Ring of Fire match. Now, if there is any match you would put Kane and Bray Wyatt in, it would be some fire-related Inferno Ring of Fire match, and they absolutely ate with the stipulation. If you were to tell me create the spookiest, like, I don't even know what to call it, but if you were to tell me create the ultimate Kane match, I would say something like Kane Bray Wyatt, Kane Undertaker in an Inferno match, and that's exactly what they gave us in 2013 opening match. Opening match, by the way, that card only got better. So for that reason, that is a comfortable high S tier for me. And honestly, maybe one of the best on this list so far. Well, it is the best. Maybe one of the best moving forward by the end of this list. 2014, we are back to the Dolph Ziggler Intercontinental opening match saga. And this time it is against someone he is no stranger to whatsoever, and that is The Miz. We're talking about a match that maybe has happened about 20 times, and that was only between the years of like 2016 and 2018. And still, to me, absolutely never gets old. I could watch Dolph Ziggler and The Miz go at it, mind you, for the Intercontinental Championship every single time, and it would be an absolute banger. With that being said, very high A tier match. I would consider putting it in the S tier if it hadn't happened about 20-30 times, but that is an A tier match every single time. On to 2015 opening match, we have Randy Orton versus Sheamus, 2 of the hottest guys in the company. give me S tier. We are talking prime Sheamus, just off of his world title runs. You know, he just won Royal Rumbles. Likewise, Randy Orton's about to go on to win a Royal Rumble on his crazy world title runs. Just main evented WrestleMania 2014. Heck, two of the best guys in 2015, man. Like, you just can't go wrong with Sheamus versus Randy Orton. All right, now we have a tag team match between Enzo Amore and Big Cass against Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, the best of friends in the year 2016. Now, I think this is a pretty cool match. Obviously not quite an S tier match in my opinion, but still definitely a solid opening match. I'm gonna put this in low A tier, honestly. Like, yeah, I don't know, not much to say on it. With that being said, however, we have way too many in the A and B tier right now, so I'm gonna move some down. We're gonna bring Lance Storm and Edge down to C tier. I'll bring Kane and Finley down as well. No one really cares about that. Any A tier, I'll bring this A tier match down to B tier. And yeah, that's it. That is enough for now, I think. Okay, on to 2017 SummerSlam, and we have John Cena versus Baron Corbin. Now, I feel like any opening match with John Cena immediately cements itself in the A tier. I don't think you can put a John Cena opening match below the A tier. However, it's Baron Corbin we're talking about here. And for that reason, I don't think we can put it above A tier either. So for that reason, bottom of the A tier. We've got a marquee superstar, and we've got just Baron Corbin. Seth freaking Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, obviously, I said I'm not going to involve the match. I'm just involving the match card itself and not the quality of the match. However, I will say I recently watched this match, and it was an absolute banger of a match. We had Seth Rollins enter with Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler enter with Drew McIntyre, and yeah, Seth Rollins winning his second Intercontinental Championship, I believe. S tier match for me, honestly. S tier Intercontinental title match. Now, on to 2019, a SummerSlam I adore. I adore the visuals. I will likely make a video about it sometime down the line, but this is Natalya we're talking about here. We have Becky Lynch versus Natalya. Becky Lynch, on her own, arguably one of the greatest Raw Women's Champions of all time, but against Natalya, that brings it down to a B tier. Nothing too much against Natalya, but like, is she really who you want to open up a pay-per-view? No. All right, on to the Thunderdome 2020 SummerSlam match. We have Bayley versus Asuka. Now, this was a time when Bayley and Sasha Banks were absolutely dripped out with both World Women's titles at this time. They had, obviously, Bayley with the SmackDown Women's title, Sasha Banks with the Raw Women's title. I think they were also in this period rocking the Women's Tag Team Championships as well. So they basically had every single title in the women's division at this point. As for a title match, particularly a women's title match, I think Bayley and Asuka is pretty much up there with as good as you can get, especially in 2020. I'm going to put that in the A tier. RK Bro versus AJ Styles and Omos, 2021 SummerSlam, Las Vegas, Nevada. Let me talk to you about these two teams. I really did have a problem with these two teams because we're talking about two people who should have been main event superstars in 2021. We're talking about Randy Orton and we're talking about AJ Styles. However, they ended up being in these like B tier tag teams respectively. They did a little bit. They both won tag team championships, but it's the fact that they could have been main eventing throughout these years and they just ended up getting thrown in these random tag teams just to be hitting tag team title matches every single pay-per-view. With that being said, we still have an opening match that contains Randy Orton and AJ Styles. However, I feel like they are very much weighed down in terms of their star power with the respective Omos and Riddle. So for that reason, I'm going to put this in the B tier. I feel like at this point in time, I just couldn't take RK Bro as seriously as Randy solo. Same with AJ Styles and Omos. I couldn't take that as seriously as just AJ Styles. So for that reason, I'm going to have to go B tier for this one. All right, we are on to the last two. SummerSlam 2022, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. Again, I said I'm not going to go into these matches. However, this was a very monumental match, and not for what actually happened in the match, but for what happened after the match. Now, if you guys don't remember, this was a match where Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky all returned at the end of this match. So obviously this became a bit of an iconic match because of what happened after the match. But if we're still talking about the match itself, I still think this is an A tier match. At this point, we're talking two of the best women in the company going at it for the Raw Women's title. And I know at this point you guys guys are definitely screaming at the screen, why are there so many matches in the A tier? Why are there so many in the S tier? I think what you got to appreciate here, an opening match is purposefully, a lot of the time, the second best match on the card. Like, WWE will purposefully, even to the point where they'll purposely put their best match as the opening match to get people watching, to get people hooked. So, you know, of course, these are going to be some of the top matches. And of course, most of these are going to be bangers. Anyway, we are on to our final match. And this is a bit of a meme match, honestly. We have Logan Paul versus Ricochet at SummerSlam. We have two one-trick ponies here. Ricochet, of course, an incredible superstar, not really a draw in any sense outside of his athleticism. Same for Logan Paul to an extent. His whole thing is just kind of hitting one cool thing in a match. With that being said, I think we have, I don't want to be harsh here and put this in Ryback tier. I don't quite think it's a Ryback tier kind of match. I'm going to go really low C tier. I don't think anyone was particularly like, yeah, I gotta watch this Ricochet versus Logan Paul match. But at the same time, like, when they have a match, they can hold up. So yeah, I think that absolutely does it for the rankings of every single opening match in 2020, with the winner being Bray Wyatt versus Kane in a Ring of Fire match. Now, I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you lot agree with these rankings or if you think I absolutely butchered it. Either way, I don't really care, but still let me know in the comments which match or which matches you would move, and let me know which things you would like to see me rank in future videos. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, make sure to smash that like button, and until next time, peace.